In the midnight glow where the stars align, we lose ourselves in the rhythm divine. Underneath the sky painted with dreams we're chasing.
Hello, and welcome to episode 9. I'm Mari.
And I'm Jody.
And today we are going to talk about the 4 elements and the modalities in your chart.
I'll get started with the elements. Recently, I watched the Pixar movie Elemental with my nieces, and I thought this was a great way to explain or describe the elements. I think they did a really good job of bringing the traits of fire, earth, air, and water to life in that movie. If you're familiar with it, there's Ember, Wade, Claude, and Gale. So if you're not, by the time we're done with this episode, you're going to want to go watch it. Okay, when talking about the 4 elements of astrology, we're really talking about the energetic DNA of the zodiac. They're ancient, they're rooted in Greek philosophy, the Babylonian astrology, and nature itself. So here's an example of ways to understand them. When you think of fire, think of inspiration and action. Earth is structure and stability. Air is communication and connection. Water is feeling and intuition. I like to think of it as kind of like a play. So fire is the actor, earth is the stage, air is the script, and water is the soundtrack. So we need all of them in the story to make us feel whole. So it's not about having a whole bunch of one. It's about balance. We want the balance between the 4 elements. So back to that wonderful Elemental movie. They captured it so well with the characters. And Ember is fire, Claude is earth, Gale is air, and Wade is water. So watching them interact on the show, the main characters are Ember and Wade, but Claude and Gale are in there. So if you didn't see them, watch it again.
Those names are so darling in association with the elements.
I know, aren't they fun?
Yeah, so cute.
And watching them interact on the show is exactly how elements bring life into balance. We need all of them. We'll start with the fire elements. Ember is the fire character in Elemental. She's very passionate and bold and sometimes quick to flare up. She represents the spark of fire, the drive to create, the drive to lead, the drive to inspire. So in astrology, the fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. On the high road, they're visionary leaders, they're motivators, they're creators. They light the way forward. They're the movers and the shakers. On the low road, they can be impulsive, impatient, or at risk of burning out. Fire reminds us to live with passion and courage, but also to remember balance. The flame needs oxygen and boundaries to keep from burning out. So fire is great, but too much of anything can be too much. Moving on to Earth. So Earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. In the movie, Claude is the little Earth character. He's steady, he's dependable, he's a little stubborn, but he represents the security and the loyalty of Earth's energy. So they're builders and planners of the zodiac. On the high road, Earth element provides stability, practicality, and structure. On the low road, it can become a little rigid, overly focused on work, or resist to change. Earth teaches us the values of patience, hard work, grounding. It's the soil that allows dreams to take root. Next, we have air. So air is Gale in Elemental, and she's expressive, she's lively, she's constantly moving, just like the wind. She brings communication, energy, and perspective. Air signs are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. On the high road, air is adaptable, it's intellectual, it's social. It keeps conversations flowing and ideas expanding. On the low road, air can be scattered, indecisive, detached, overthinker. I can relate to this. Air energy teaches us the importance of curiosity and learning and also connection. But it also reminds us to slow down and ground when things feel too fast. Water signs are up next. In Elemental, Wade was the character that represented water, and he is compassionate, deeply feeling, and yes, very emotional. He reminds us that feelings aren't weakness, they're strengths. So, water signs are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. On the high road, water is nurturing, intuitive, creative. On the low road, it can be a little bit moody, overly sensitive, or avoidant. Water teaches us the beauty of empathy and imagination. Like the ocean, it can be calm and healing, or it can be powerful, but it's always essential. And in the movie Wade, water, and Ember, fire, come together. And who would have thought fire and water? But it works. It works. It just took them a little bit of time to figure that out. Have you seen the movie, Mari?
I haven't, no, but I want to.
Yeah, you gotta watch it. Yes.
I know. I've heard you talk about it before, and every time I think, I really need to watch that because
I
it
know
does seem like such a cute representation of these elements. And as you're talking, I'm sure all of us can hear certain parts of our lives in those things. We might not break it down into elements like astrology does, but we all have those different parts of our lives for sure. Jody, too, do you want to talk about the yin and the yang in the elements as well?
Yes. So fire and air elements are yang polarity, and yang is more of that outward, the more expressive, energetic, extroverted action. And then water and earth are the yin, which is more receptive and inward, intuitive, nurturing, introvert. So that's just another layer on top of the elements is the polarities.
Yeah, and interestingly, on the chart, the yin and yang elements will always be paired across from each other. So water is always across from earth, both yin, both that more receptive, more inward, introverted energy. And then the yang elements, fire and air, are always across from each other on the wheel as well. So when we talk about that mirror of signs, sort of the sign that is across is somewhat holding up a mirror. Though there might be polarities in those energies, there's also some mirrored qualities there. And you see that here when it comes to the yin yang, masculine, feminine energies. And by masculine and feminine, we don't necessarily mean if you are a man and you have a more feminine sign, it doesn't mean you're more feminine. It's simply about outward versus inward sort of actions.
Yes. And we have all of them in our chart. So if you think about air feeds fire, but too much air can make fire too much also.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about balance. And
Yep.
earth needs water.
Yes. Earth needs water for it to flourish and to grow.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes. The movie is a perfect example of how you don't have to have those complementary elements because Ember is fire and Wade is water, which in the movie, when they come together, there is a little bit of sizzling because Wade's water and Ember's fire. So it's a really cool representation of that. All right. So next, I'm sure you want to know what element is strongest in your chart. So we would recommend going to astro.com and pulling up your free natal chart. You just need your birthday, time, and place. And for fire elements, you have Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Earth is Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Air is Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. And then water is Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. But there's a really easy cheat when you go to astro.com. There's a little box of what's called quadruplicities, and it has the air, fire, earth, and water. And then it also has the modalities Mari's going to talk about, cardinal, fixed, and mutable, right in that chart. So it will tell you what you have the most of in your chart. And we're going to attach a little worksheet that's going to walk you through where to find that. You're going to count each of the planets in the element and ask yourself, what do you lean more heavily towards? Like, do you have a lot of fire? Do you have a lot of earth? Do you have a lot of air? Do you have a lot of water? Do you feel that? We're going to talk about how you can bring in some of those elements if you're feeling like you need more of it.
I was just going to ask that actually. And to emphasize once again, we all contain all signs within our chart. But where we have strongest energies and what that little graph, that little box is going to show you, the quadruplicities box is going to show you where you have planets placed, or depending if you have asteroids or the nodes, depending on what you are pulling up in the chart, it's going to tell you where those things are placed and where you have the most emphasis. So I was going to ask you, Jody, in the light of that, what would you tell someone who has a quote unquote missing element? Say they have a lot of fire, a little bit of water, some earth, but maybe they have no air at all in their chart. What would you say to help them with balancing that?
Well, first I would ask, how do they feel? Because what I've learned is that sometimes if you're lacking an element in your chart, it can go either extreme one way or the other. Like you have none of those traits of that element, or you almost have too much of those traits in that element. But there's a few ways that you can balance that out, because really that's what we want, is that balance and harmony between those four elements. So if you're feeling like you don't have enough of one of them, for example, so if you feel low on fire, which in my experience with reading mini charts is that people feel low on fire even if they have some fire in their chart, because unfortunately we are taught to dim our light. If you don't be too loud, don't be too crazy, don't be too busy, don't have too much energy, calm down. So that's really one element that I think people lack often. But if you want to pull in some fire, moving your body is great. So dancing is great. Getting out into the sunlight, setting yourself some goals. Singing is also a good way to pull in fire. And looking like lighting a candle, doing a little meditation, anything that's pulling in that fire element, wearing red.
And harnessing things that you're passionate about, right? Like,
Yes.
where does your passion drive you? Because I think of fire as so passionate too.
Right, exactly. And so if you're feeling low on earth, earth is very stable and steady and analytical. So if you feel like you need to pull some of that in, spend more time in nature, create routines, cook a nourishing meal, clean up a space. Sometimes earth, if we have too much earth, we can tend to hang on to a lot of things. I always look at my office and I think, okay, what does my office look like? And that's probably how I'm feeling. And when I clean it up, I feel like it just gives me inspiration and new energy, because I've cleaned up that space and I'm ready to get stuff done and set some goals and make things happen. Next, we have air. So if you feel like you're low on air, you can journal, talk about things, start a podcast, read, learn something new. Breath work is one of my favorites, just because air, your mind is busy all the time. You're going, and a lot of shallow breathing. So breath work is going to really help bring in that air element and also support your breathing. And then water element, if you're feeling low on water, you want to really allow yourself to feel, listen to music. And another great way to pull in that water element is to be around water or be in water. So take a bath, go swimming, go to the lake. Even if you don't like to be in the water, just being around the water is really helpful in pulling in that element. And of course, I am an essential oil lover, so I'm always looking at what essential oils you can use to support those elements or pull in those elements. So fire, good oils to use for fire if you want to pull in more fire element would be wild orange, peppermint, or cinnamon. One of the easiest ways to do that is to get a diffuser and just put a drop or two of those oils in there and start diffusing, because that's going to give you the benefits of pulling in that fire element. So if you are looking to get something done, cleaning, throw some wild orange, peppermint, and cinnamon in your diffuser, and I'd love to hear how productive you become. Next, for earth, some essential oils that are great for supporting earth element are cedarwood, vetiver, and patchouli. So those are all very earthy, woody oils, and they're going to bring in that earth element. Air element, the essential oils I would recommend for that are eucalyptus, rosemary, and spearmint, which Eucalyptus and spearmint are two of my favorite combos. And rosemary helps add in that like calming to your mind chatter to really help you focus and get things done. And then for water element, it would be lavender, sandalwood, and ylang ylang are three of the suggested oils to kind of pull in that water element when you need it. Again, diffusing is the easiest, but you could also put these in a carrier oil like fractionated coconut oil and apply them to the body. Maybe make yourself up a roller. You can get an empty roller and make up a little blend that's going to help support you with the elements that you're trying to pull in. And you can combine that with any of the other things we talked about. So applying some oils and journaling, or diffusing oils and journaling, or going for a walk, getting out in nature, moving your body, all those things. With the essential oils, they carry a vibration of each of the elements, and that can support the energy when you're feeling imbalanced. So that's the benefit of pulling in essential oils along with the other suggested things to pull in those elements.
That makes a lot of sense. As I was hearing you talk, you kind of even break it down to just a few simple words. Like, do you need energy? Do you need to be energized right now? Do you need to be calm and grounded? Are you feeling anxious? Do you want to feel kind of come down and ground into yourself? Do you want clarity? Right? That would be more like the air signs. Are you looking for clarity? Are you feeling foggy or having a hard time getting your words out or communicating? You want some clarity of thinking, trying to learn something new, and you're like, my brain, it's not,
Yeah.
I can't grasp this. Or nurturing, really. I feel like that what you were describing for the water element is nurturing yourself, your emotional body, and all of the ways that you described, going out in nature. It's very nurturing, it's calming, it's soothing our sometimes tattered emotional selves, right? Yeah,
Yes.
I love that. Thank you. That was
Yes.
a great summation of the elements. I love working with the elements just simply because there's just four of them instead of 12, like all the 12 signs. It can
Yeah.
simplify a little bit when you're just breaking it down into those four. All right, modalities. So we have been talking a lot about energy, and modalities really signify how your energy moves. So there are three modalities instead of four, like the elements, but we can break them down into four groups of three, much like the seasons, 3 months for a season. So cardinal energy, which is the first, starts or initiates. So the cardinal energies and the cardinal signs are all going to be the start of a season. The cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And Aries starts spring in March. Cancer is the beginning of summer in June. Libra is the beginning of autumn. And Capricorn is the beginning of winter. The next energy would be fixed energy, which sustains and endures. That's going to be the sign that sits in the middle of each season. And mutable energy, the third one, adapts and changes. That is the sign that is going to sit at the end of a season as you prepare to move into the coming season. So the energy that we just described, cardinal, fixed, mutable, is really the life cycle of any project. You initiate, you build and hold, and then you adapt and shift into the next thing. And so we're going to start with the cardinal signs. As I just said, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. The essence of the cardinal energy is proactive, it's pioneering, ambitious, visionary, and assertive. Some of the gifts of cardinal energy might be creating momentum, strong leadership skills, bravery, visionary thinking, and decisiveness. But some of the shadows could be impatience, needing to control situations with your ideas, because your ideas are the best ideas, conflicts, and quitting when the high of what is new begins to fade. Cardinal really wants to start things, but if you have all cardinal energy, where is the sustaining and then bringing to completion and then adapting into the next thing, right? So this is, if you can have too much of a good thing. Some behavioral tells to watch for with strong cardinal energy. This would be someone who possibly has a forward lean in conversations. They're literally leaning in because they are anxious to get their ideas put out there. Someone who tends to interrupt with their own ideas can be a possibility with this. And someone who is constantly starting new projects and ideas, or someone who is always on the move. These people are action oriented. So if you have strong cardinal placements in your chart, a few ways to alchemize and use this energy in a healthy way might be commit to fewer starts. Pick a few things to initiate at a time. And design handoffs to fixed or mutable teammates. If you're working in a group and you are really good at cardinal energy, design on purpose a time when it's time to hand the project over to your fixed and mutable friends who can really sustain that energy. And ask others for their thoughts and opinions and really take them into consideration, because being open-minded is something that can be a little difficult if you have a lot of cardinal energy. And let's be honest, you have a ton of great ideas. You really do. And your ideas will be valued. But it's good for you if you have a lot of this energy to sit back and to listen sometimes and take in other people's ideas as well. Okay, fixed signs. Our fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. You guys are the stabilizers. The essence of fixed energy would be focused, resilient, loyal, steadfast, and devoted. Some gifts of the fixed energy are mastery in your chosen field, consistency with projects and goals, and determination to stick with difficult things. Some of the shadows could be stubbornness, power struggles, but in a different way than cardinal. Instead of trying to get your idea across, you might be in a power struggle around, you don't want things to change. We've been doing it this way forever. Why are we changing? Stagnation, discomfort, or fear of change. Some behavioral tells to watch for with people who have strong fixed energy might be someone who works at a steady pace, someone who shows discomfort with sudden pivots or changes, or someone with strong preferences that really stands their ground when pushed. If you have strong fixed placements in your chart, a few ways to alchemize and use this energy in a healthy way would be schedule small experiments with new things and ideas. You can do this incrementally, just little bits at a time. Practice a 90% the same, 10% new routine. Just bring in little bits of making yourself uncomfortable, trying new things. And find places in your life where you can be flexible. Like really try to be adaptable and flexible in certain areas of your life where you can. Okay, mutable. Mutable signs would be Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. You are the adapters. So the essence of mutable energy is flexible, curious, adaptable, and restless. Some gifts of mutable energy would be staying open to others' perspectives, being okay with closure and endings and learning from them, and seeing the bigger picture because of your flexibility. It gives you being able to see through other people's eyes as well. Some of the shadows might be people pleasing, right? You're so flexible that you just go with the flow a little too much. Overcommitment, kind of being a yes man, not being able to hold firm boundaries around yourself and others, and sometimes indecisiveness or being wishy-washy. Some behavioral tells to watch for strong mutable energy might be someone who goes with the flow and can context switch really easily, someone who shows openness to options and others' ideas, and someone who is easily able to say yes and, very open. If you have strong mutable placements in your chart, a few ways to alchemize and use the energy in a healthy way would be constrain your choices and keep it simple. If you can get overwhelmed easily with a lot of options, follow through, hit those finish lines and celebrate them. If you can follow through on a project all the way to the end, celebrate that, because that is not always easy for you. And anchor into your body before saying yes. Instead of simply just saying yes to people, please, what does this feel like in my body? Is this a soul yes? Is this a heck yes? Because if it's not a heck yes, it's a no, right? So yeah, I really encourage you to look at your chart and which mode dominates your chart, as well as the elements, and really look and see how that matches your work style. As a matter of fact, an example from my own chart, which I found very interesting when I started to study this, was I'm looking at the quadruplicities, the little graph that shows all of this, and I have quite a bit of cardinal energy cardinal fire, some cardinal earth. And then I have very little fixed energy, but even what is there is in water. And then I have a decent amount of the mutable. So I'm a pretty flexible person. I go with the flow pretty easily. I do tend to be a little bit of a people pleaser. I also kind of an ideas person. I get excited about starts and beginnings. Oh, fresh start. Oh my gosh, I've had this idea. But follow through is so tough. And what's interesting with my specific example is that what sits in that fixed area is in water signs. So when it comes to follow through and stick to itiveness, I get in my emotions about it. Water, emotions, right? So I tend to get a little in my head and emotional, like, oh, I don't know. Do I really want to do this? Is this worth my time? Am I any good at this anyway? Just a lot of self-doubt and can I really do this? And, the idea was great to start with. And I'm really flexible to go with other people's ideas too. But when it comes to follow through, I get in my emotions. So what that did for me though, was bring awareness to that because I've lived with myself my whole life and I guess I could have broke it down to that, but it was such a clear picture and that aha moment of, okay, I see what's going on here. And so when that happens, when I'm in the middle of a project and I start getting in my feelings, I go, okay, you need to remember the weaknesses or the shadow sides of your chart and know that you have the capacity to follow through with this. It's just emotions. You can do this and stick to it and finish it. So that's a personal example of my own discovery through doing this.
Yeah, I've noticed the same myself. So my question to you would be, do you feel like you attract people in that pull in those other elements? Have you ever looked into that?
That is interesting. Here's what I'll say. I definitely find myself attracted to people who portray things I admire. I admire people who stick to and follow through on things because it's something that I desire to be able to do well myself. And so I look up to and look to the example of people who do that well. So yeah, I would say that is drawing that in and noticing it and trying to emulate or, and I've definitely have friends like that who I've asked like, what are your routines? How do you how do you
Yeah.
follow through on projects? How do you keep this routine so steady that, your self-care routine or whatever it might be and learn from them, honestly. Any tips or tricks I will try to absorb because that is not my strong point.
Yes, I've definitely noticed that I attract people. So I only have one planet in Cardinal. So I have a lot of idea, and it's Pluto.
Oh,
I mean, I feel like
okay.
I have a lot of ideas, but
Hmm.
I'm not great at taking the action.
Hmm.
So I found that I tend to pull in friends who have fire.
Yeah.
And so that fire element helps me move because I'm moving with them. So I'm partnering up with
Hmm.
somebody and that helps me take action. I have a lot of fixed and my AC ascendant and my MC are all in fixed. So learning astrology helps clarify so many things because when I learned that, I was like, oh man, no wonder. No wonder. If you would have asked me before I learned about astrology what I thought I was, cardinal, fixed, or mutable, I would have said mutable. And
Mm.
I have 4 planets in mutable. So I do have a good amount of mutable, but I really have a lot of fixed. And I feel like because it's on that axis that I feel that more. And I've learned I do have a hard time with change, even though I thought of myself as very adaptable and mutable. I struggle with change at certain points. And I've learned now because I can really anchor into that fixed and that earth element that a way to pull myself out of that is to go and find that fire element, whether it's in a friend that I know is going to be the mover and the shaker,
Mhm.
or if it's in a practice that's going to get me moving and pull me out of that stuckness of the low road of fixed.
Mhm. That brings up two things for me, and one of them is a perfect segue into what I'm going to talk about next. So that's great. The first thing is I love that example of the buddy system in order to help us help ourselves. Because, like you said, you're drawn to people who have cardinals so that they might start the project and then you come in to help along the way. For me, without a lot of fixed, an example that popped in my head is when it comes to something like going to the gym consistently, a accountability partner, somebody who's really good at that and good at showing up every day. I tell them, okay, I'm going to go with you. And now I've got a buddy who can help me sustain and stay with a routine or a task or whatever it might be.
Right.
And the second thing that you said that leads perfectly into the next thing I'm going to talk about. You said something about that your fixed energy, you said, is on your angles, right? It's on your angular houses.
Yes.
Yes. So your first, fourth, seventh, and 10th houses, the angles are really strong points in our chart. And I'm going to go into that next. And what modality you have on the angles, specifically the angular houses, that's adds extra emphasis and strength to that particular modality for sure. Okay, so that leads me into house types. So basically, the house types is breaking the chart, the 12 houses in the chart, down into segments, kind of like the modalities, but instead of around sign, we're looking at the houses. So 3 groups here: angular, succedent, and cadent. And this breaks the 12 houses into quadrants. So that would be houses 1 through 3, 4 through 6, 7 through 9, and 10 through 12. So the angular houses are the most potent and powerful as far as action points or main life themes. And part of the reason being, they hold these angular points, which are the ascendant, the IC, the descendant, and the MC, or the midheaven. And those are very key places that shape our lives. And because those angular houses, house 1, house 4, house 7, and house 10, hold those angles, they tend to be the most potent and strong flavor in our lives. So your rising sign is what is going to set up all the rest of the houses. Your rising sign's modality, your rising sign's, whether it be cardinal, fixed, or mutable, is going to say a lot about who you are. Even if you have a ton of planets in a different modality, there's still a lot of strength there on what the modality is of your rising sign. Okay? So people with cardinal signs on their angles, so their rising sign, 4th house, 7th house, 10th house, have a lot more initiating energy and drive. These people tend to be your innovators, movers, and shakers, right? And people with fixed signs on their angles, fixed sign, rising sign, tend to stay steadier through life, sticking with jobs, sticking with relationships, sticking with the same house. They tend to not want to travel as much or change things up. They tend to be very steady and immovable, really. And people with mutable signs on the ascendant, and then, of course, follows the angles, tend to be social, adaptable. They enjoy change. They travel. They like to explore. But they may be very changeable and have trouble with choices and staying power and stick-to-itiveness in general. So let's go over this real quick. So the angular houses. House 1. And we've gone over the houses before, but I'm just briefly going to touch on each of the houses as well to kind of give you a summary. So the angular houses are urgent, visible, foundational, fate-shaping, and planets in these houses really demand expression. They're going to have powerful expression. So as a refresher, the first house is this house of self and your approach to life, your identity, instinct, and the energy you lead with. The 4th house is that your roots and home, family, belonging, inner foundations, your inner child. That's a little bit of 5th house too, but we're talking about the home you were raised in as you grew up, what that was like, and your ancestry. The 7th house is the house of you and me. It's literally about partnerships, close friendships, any close relationship, really. Mirroring. So how do I see parts of myself reflected back from relationship to others? Whether that be in conflict or harmony, others are mirroring back to us so we can learn about ourselves more. And contracts also show up in the 7th house, right? To see if you're signing a contract for someone, you are entering into a partnership with them. The 10th house is calling and contribution to the world. who you are out in the world, your reputation, your legacy, and your career. So a great word picture for the angular houses would be, think corners of a house. They hold the frame. This is the foundation. Planets here set the tone of a life or a chapter in your life. Okay, so succedent houses, and that would be house 2, 5, 8, and 11. So these are about resource cultivation. They're about growth, stabilization, values, and where your momentum becomes substance. So we're kind of echoing again that those angular houses sort of have that cardinal feel, the initiating feel, that powerhouse. And then our succedent houses have a stabilizing follow through momentum on those angular houses. So succedent houses, house 2, this would be money and self-worth, your capacity to generate and sustain what you value, your worth, both literal and your self-worth. The 5th house is joy and creation, play, romance, children, art, and creativity. The 8th house would be psychological depths, intimacy as alchemy, meaning intimacy for a soul purpose, true deep intimacy with another, shared assets, inheritances, psyche, taboos, occult, and deep subconscious work. The 11th house is community and future. This is networks, causes, your hopes and dreams, and your tribe. So kind of a word picture here would be succedent sustains. This is where we store energy, wealth, love, and trust. So think this is what fills up the house that you built with cherished items and with the people whom you choose to have in your home. And then we have the cadent houses. That's house 3, 6, 9, and 12. These houses are about adaptation and integration. So learning, service, synthesis, surrender, those types of things. The 3rd house would be mind and neighborhood. So it's skills, communication, daily discourse, local community, your siblings, day-to-day life. 6th house, craft and care. This is work rhythms, health, refinement, and routine, ultimately, whether it be health routine, work routine, it's your daily rhythm of life. The 9th house is meaning and horizons. This is about your beliefs, travel, publishing, truth seeking, higher learning, religion, expansion, other cultures. This is a very expanded house. And the 12th house is mystery and release. This is about dreams, solitude, spirituality, and sometimes loss. This is a realm of often hidden things, subconscious things, but ultimately understanding that we are spiritual beings and that we are all part of the same living organism and we are all one. And so in order to realize and understand that, you have to go inward, right? So it's very much a lot about solitude, meditation, going inward. And so a word picture here would be, so Cadent prepares the next season, like turning the soil. These are the dreams you plan while in your home. These are changes within the home. Renovations are unexpected things that break and need to be fixed, right? Things are changing. Watching the seasons as they come and go from your porch. Learning and adapting as you live in the home. And the very last thing that I'll touch on is the quadrants, because like I said, you can kind of break those down into the 4 quadrants, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. And the quadrants are as follows. So houses 1 through 3 are about self-discovery and the immediate world, right? Who am I? My identity, my voice, learning what I learned from my surroundings.
So if you have a lot of planets in there, then the focus is more on the self.
Yes, yes. And that doesn't, and not in a selfish way, but it's about self-discovery. Who am I? I came to this life to learn about who I am and really doing that self-exploration. Yeah, so questions for this quadrant, or if you have a lot of planets in this area, would be, who am I? How do I think and speak? And what skills matter to me? This is really foundational stuff. The second quadrant is about roots, craft, and care. So home, ancestry, body, routines, an emphasis on self-expression, that type of thing. So questions for you, if you have a lot of placements in this quadrant, would be what nourishes me? What work rhythm sustains me? And how do I want to express myself? The third quadrant, that's houses 7 through 9, is about others and expanding your horizons. So intimate partnerships, cultural and ethical horizons, where you find meaning through relationship and exploration. So if you have a strong emphasis in this quadrant, a lot of planets placed here, questions for you would be, who are my mirrors? Who am I in relationship to others and to the wider world? And also I would say too, and what am I here to learn? Because that 9th house is so much about learning and expansion. And then finally, the 4th quadrant, houses 10 through 12. If you have strong placements here, cluster of planets here, this is about contribution and transcendence, vocation, legacy, and then ultimately surrender with the 12th house. It's about your public offering refined by spirituality and solitude, and really that understanding of that transcendence of that we are all one, right? Which connects to the community, connects to the wider world. It isn't just so self-focused. It's really focusing on all of us as one. So questions for you, if you have strong placements here, would be, what am I known for? How do I want to be seen? And what am I leaving behind, right? That's legacy. And how do I let go and renew? It's very 12th house focused. Yeah, so that wraps up the quadrants.
So whether you're fiery like Ember, grounded like Claude, airy like Gale, or flowy like Wade, the 4 elements are your cosmetic foundation. And as Mari showed us, the modalities, Cardinal, Fixed, and Mutable, reveal how the energy moves. So together, the elements and modalities give us a fuller picture of astrology and of ourselves.
Yes, go check them out in your chart and see what you can learn about yourself. And
Yes.
we hope you tune in with us in 2 weeks when our next episode comes out. Thanks for listening.
Thanks. Thanks for joining us under the stars today. We hope you're leaving feeling inspired, grounded, and more connected to your inner truth.
And if you loved this episode, we would be so grateful if you would subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone you love.
If you're ready to explore your soul's path through psychological, evolutionary astrology, and personal astrological coaching, you can find Mari at yoursoulpurposeastrology.com or follow her on Instagram and Facebook at Your Soul Purpose Astrology.
And if you're ready to illuminate your birth chart and explore how essential oils can support your emotional and energetic alignment, you can find Jody at earthandskyessentials.com or at Earth and Sky Essentials on Facebook and Instagram.
And remember, your soul is always guiding you.
The magic starts within.